All right, hey yo, welcome back, and I'm here to tell you that eating out is making you poor. Now, I want to say up front, this is not another video about you absolutely have to stop eating, drinking, grabbing your morning coffee at Starbucks. That's not the point here. But it is to raise your awareness of where money is flowing through your hands like water, not consciously. That's what this is all about to me. Now, I just recently did a video not too long ago about what the perfect budget looks like. And I state there that a budget to me is not handcuffs, right? It's not you can spend 28% of your income on housing and you can spend 15% on transportation and you are locked into this. It's about raising your awareness of where you're spending your money, living in the moment and spending your money consciously. Your morning coffee at Starbucks is often picked on. It's easy to pick on because you can make coffee at home and just put it in a tumbler and take it with you. But eating out and grabbing that Starbucks in the morning or your local coffee shop of choice, it's an affordable luxury, right? It's a little treat for yourself. And if you enjoy the treating yourself, if you enjoy the socializing, great, do it. Make yourself happy, but be aware that you're robbing your future in the process. You don't have to do a lot of math to see that if you spend $5 to $10 every day at Starbucks, every work day, well, over the course of 40 years, you are robbing yourself of about $1 million in investments. That's how much that $200 a month actually means to you. If that's worth it to you, hey, great. But be conscious of it. That's what we're talking about here. And so while we all like to talk about that morning coffee, eating out is a much, much bigger concern for most of us. Now, I'm not casting my stones inside of a glass house here. I love to eat out, whether it's grabbing a burger or taking my wife out to eat. I love the convenience. I love the fact that somebody else is preparing it for me. I love sometimes just getting away from the house. But we do it consciously. We do it honestly about once a week. And we're doing a little bit more now because our children have aged out of the house. When we were younger and there were 2 of us and 4 children, it would easily cost over $100 to go out anywhere that wasn't fast food. And that's a lot of money to go eat. Certainly if you think about doing it once a week, $400, $500 could be dropped very easily. Now, we will still do it. We'll take them out, or we'll take a stepson and his wife out, or we'll, whatever it happens to be, but we do it consciously and in alignment with our investment goals. And that's what I want to make you aware of today. So America has had a trend over decades, I would say, of increasing amounts being spent in eating out. I've pulled up the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditures report for 2020. Obviously, we're in 2021, so we don't have the report for this year. And 2020 was an unusual year because COVID hit. But you can look at some trends and see that Americans were spending more and more eating out. Now, with 2020, you can check this out here. I'm going to flip my screen around, and every single family size consumer unit is what they call it, increase the amount of at-home spending on groceries, for example, and decreased eating out. Well, that's easy to understand when restaurants were closed and you couldn't go eat out. But if I scroll down here, let's look at the numbers. So in 2018, average consumer unit spent $4,400 eating out, and for almost $3,500 eating at home, or away from home, excuse me. And we spent $46 eating at home and $35. And then suddenly in 2020, eating away from home dropped down to $2,375, a decrease of 32%, while we increased our at-home food by 6.4%. And I think this is a trend that might stick a little bit. People saw, hey, we can make really good food from home, but we want to get out and we want to just go grab a pizza or whatever it happens to be. I like the trend that it dropped, but I do think that as we return to normal over the next few years, we're going to see more and more eating out. We'll go back to the trend that was happening before COVID hit us. And it's really important. It's a little concerning for me. If you are struggling to balance your budget, your household budget, if you want to increase your savings, if you want to start investing, you want to start building for your future, for a life of abundance, you've got to cut somewhere. You've got to cut the spending somewhere. And it's easy to cut eating out and increase eating at home. And it has a massive outsized impact because it's a magnifier to make that. You don't have to look very far to see that the average markup at a restaurant is about 300%. It's 3 times the cost of the food. Now, when you buy that food, you have to pay the chefs and the cleaning staff, and they have to pay, for rent on the building and utilities and everything else. And ultimately, with all of that, they can end up with a 5 to 10% profit margin overall. But certain things at restaurants, like drinks and desserts, can have a much higher profit margin. I've heard desserts have a 15% profit margin, and alcohol can have much higher than that. And so some restaurants are making their food affordable while increasing the price on the alcohol. And that's an old trick, right? And a lot of restaurants are moving to trying to be more of an experience, right? A good example I read, if you go for breakfast and you're buying, just a Waffle House or a Huddle House, if you're familiar with those, it's relatively affordable because there's no real presentation, right? You can make the same thing at home. But if you go to a nicer restaurant, you might spend 2 to 3 times more for the same food because it's more of an experience. Well, how much does a dozen eggs cost with a package of bacon? See what I'm saying? You can eat at home, and your dollar saved at eating out is actually $3 you could have spent at home. It's an outsized influence. So think about that. If you're going out to lunch a few days a week, and you're going out to, say, Friday night dinner, you and your significant other or a friend, maybe you're meeting some friends, you got that social impact going, it'd be easy to spend $20 or $30 per person. So let's say it's 2 of you, you spend $60 on Friday, a couple of lunches, about $10, all of a sudden you're talking about $50 over a month. You've spent $200 easily eating out. And that puts you right in line with this $2,375 that people are spending on food away from home during the pandemic. So on average, we were spending substantially more than that. Well, let's flip over here to my investment calculator. And if you had 40 years, you're 25 years old and you're going to retire at 65, you're going to get 8% on your investment. That's relatively low, but pretty fair. And you're putting in $200 a month instead of spending it. You would have $700,000, almost $703,000 in 40 years. Now, am I telling you never to eat out? Of course not. Like I said, I'm not casting my stones. We still eat out, but we consciously decide to put that $200 away first and eat out with what's left over. That might be grabbing some Five Guys burgers, and the next week we buy some cheap Chinese, and then maybe once a month we go out for a nice meal, but we're not eating out 4 days a week. If you are eating out every single lunch 4 or 5 times, $50 twice on the weekends, you could spend easily $100 doing that. That's $150 times 4. You're talking about $600 a month. All of a sudden, you're talking about $2 million in the future that you're spending on convenience and on eating out. So in conclusion, guys, start tracking your eating out. How often do you buy that coffee? How often do you grab lunch instead of taking something with you? How often do you go out for dinner and buy drinks? How much are you truly spending eating out on a weekly, on a monthly basis? My point is to not say never eat out, never enjoy yourself, never unplug, never go hang out with friends, but to do it consciously. If you have a long-term perspective and you take that few minutes every single month to invest, it can have a staggering amount of money in the future, but you have to have that long-term view, and you have to tell yourself, no, I tell you what, I'm going to make dinner at home tonight, and it can make 7 figures difference down the road. You have to decide for yourself whether that's in alignment with your goals or not. I hope this helps. Let me know any questions below, guys. I appreciate your time.